5. And now, then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the what? Name of the Lord of hosts, the God, the big G, of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Now, this day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth." What? What did it say next? "That all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel."
Yes.
Capital G. That all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. All right, and so again, God moves in such ways where he gets the glory, right? He used probably just a skinny teenager, was probably still young, and in the natural, there's really no way that he could have killed that giant. And I believe God did that on purpose.
Yes.
So that he'll get all the glory. You know without a doubt, it was God. And that's what he's saying in verse 47, the whole assembly, the Israelite, and probably all the Philistines who were there, the real God of Israel were revealed to them. Right? Okay. And so again, they're really, the immediate purpose was to really defeat the giant so the Israelites will not be enslaved by the Philistines. But God of Israel, the one true God, was revealed that day once more in glorious way. And then another example that I was thinking of was in Daniel 6. So I'm going to turn to the book of Daniel, chapter 6. Well, you'll be going through this whole Bible by the end of this message. You know me. Okay, all right. All right, Daniel. Okay, this is chapter 6. Now we find that Darius the Mede has come to power. He has become king now. And he has set 120 satraps. They were like local princes, to rule over smaller areas. And then he set like 3 governors over these satraps to just administrate the kingdom. And this is Daniel, chapter 6, verse 3. Now concerning Daniel, he must have been just a wonderful, just a wonderful follower of God. A godly man. It says, then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. And probably all the other rulers heard that, and they became, jealous, right? And it says in verse 4, so the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find no charge or fault because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. And they tried to dig up dirt in some way to discredit him. They couldn't find anything. And so, like many politicians do, I shouldn't say that. They sought a way to entrap him, right? And it was in the form, in this case, this little petition that they talked Darius into signing. Now, I'm sure when Darius signed this petition, he had no idea how it would affect Daniel, or, I don't think he was really thinking. He probably thought, oh, well, okay, sounds pretty good. All right, what this petition said was that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. So the satraps and the governors, they knew the only way they could entrap Daniel was to somehow, just use his devotion to God to entrap him. That was the only way, and that's what they did. And you see how vicious, I never saw this till just a few days ago, just see how vicious these people were. I mean, they didn't say, as penalty, he should be put in prison for 5 years or 10 years, right? But it said, whoever, violates this petition says, shall be cast into the den of lions. They were after literally destroying Daniel, to get rid of him for good. I mean, you see how vicious, how they were. All right, so now it says let me see, and now I'm going to jump down to verse 10. So what did Daniel do when he found out? It says, now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home. And in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God. And I like this next part. As was his custom since early days. As was his custom since early days. See, when he found out about the petition, did he go running to the king and say, oh king, find some way to save me, please. He didn't run to Darius but the thing is, there was no way that the king can cancel this thing out. It was an irrevocable type of a petition. And that's why I'm sure, the satraps and governors did it this way. But you see Daniel's reaction. He just went along as he always has done, continued to serve the Lord, just continued to pray like he's always done. So he didn't do this in defiance to the petition. He was just continuing just to serve God, just to live as he knew to live, pleasing in his sight. Right? And of course, the result of that. And so Daniel had to be thrown into the lion's den. But I have a feeling Daniel probably slept better than the king, right? Because the king realized when Daniel had to be put into the den of lions, he realized what was happening. I believe he realized what the satraps and governors had done, right? And he was distressed. It says, he couldn't sleep all night, verse 18. And so in verse 19 tells us the king arose early in the morning. He probably didn't have any hope that Daniel will be alive, but he went early in the morning to the lion's den, to the mouth of that, and just see what happened. And verse 20 it says, and when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice, with a grieving voice, right, to Daniel. And the king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? And you could almost just, see this picture in your head. And then Daniel said to the king, I'm sure, what a joyous voice that came through, right? I mean, here the king is talking like, and Daniel speaks, oh king, live forever. I mean, joy in the land here. He said, my God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. And so the fact that Daniel survived this thing was like proof that he was innocent, right? And so what happened, verse 23, now the king was exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatsoever was found in him, because he believed in his God. And then look what happened, verse 24. And the king gave the command that they brought and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives. That's how they did it in those days, you know. And the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. So in reading this, you could never argue that lions did not eat and kill Daniel because they were not hungry. They were hungry. They were hungry. You could tell the way they attacked these people. They couldn't even reach the bottom of the den, before they devoured, right? The lions devoured them. But you see the stunning reversal. The stunning reversal. And look what King Darius wrote. To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. He's getting anointed here, right? For he is, capital H, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his kingdom shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. And so this Daniel, of course, prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. But you see what happened. Of course, the immediate purpose was to rescue not David, but Daniel out of the den. But more things happened, right? There's a revelation again. And my goodness, to those in that whole land who one true God was. All right, so there was we see a higher purpose there. So again, God moves in such a way that he gets the glory. Right? And then, of course, we look at our nation and we see, that with the forces of darkness, it seems like they have won and they're in control. Yeah. But I believe God remembers how this nation was first founded by settlers, that came to this land so they can worship God, the one true God, freely. And I believe this land, and we have proof, was dedicated to the Lord. Amen. And for the propagation of the gospel. That's how this nation was founded. Yes. And then all the lives that were sacrificed, that were lost, preserving the freedom of this nation. Yes. I believe God is remembering. I believe God is remembering those things. I believe God is still going to move. Oh, yes. I don't think God's given up on this country. I don't think so. I believe God's going to move in such a way, and I don't think it's just to bring truth to what's been happening in the last few months in this country, but as a whole, how the country has been, it seems like God's been taken out of the public square, out of schools, and out of our society. And now it just seems like what was right is now wrong, and what's wrong is now right. And the Judeo-Christian values have been literally trampled upon openly now. And before it may have been secretly, but now openly. Right? And sin has been promoted openly. I believe God is going to move, but he's going to move in such a way that nobody else is going to get the credit. Right. I believe I don't know how he's going to do it, But I believe, now this may just be my personal feeling, I believe God's gonna just move in such a way that people are going to realize it's the hand of God.
Yeah.
I believe the fear of God is coming back into this nation, and repentance, I believe, is coming. I really believe that. I believe that.
Good luck.
Now, I don't know how God's going to do it, and I don't know exactly when, we'll see it. And that's the second point I was going to come to, actually. God, the way we look at things, it's like what Mary and Martha said to Jesus, after Lazarus died. Like, if you were here, he would not have died. And it's like, that's the way we kind of think, God, if you had just moved, look what's happening now. It's like twice as bad as before, right? But something that we have to realize, that God has his own timing, right? He moves according to his